Today we are going to use tape diagrams to model and solve ratio problems. So we have defined the word tape diagram. It's a visual model that can represent the relationship between two quantities in a ratio. We have also learned how to draw them, and the three things that we need. They need labels, the same starting point, and equal size pieces. So we will be using a ruler when we draw our tape diagrams. Before we get into drawing and solving, we're going to look at interpreting a tape diagram. In this example, the tape diagram represents the ratio of blue monsters to green monsters you caught in a video game. You caught 10 green monsters. How many blue monsters did you catch? First, let's start by marking our text in our word problem. So what we're comparing is blue monsters to green monsters. That's important because that tells us what this represents. We caught 10 green monsters. Okay. The question that we need to solve in the end, I'm going to put a box around that. How many blue monsters did you catch? Okay, so what we know, here's blue and here's green. We caught 10 green monsters, so that means this right here, green, needs to represent 10. Now, since we know that all the boxes are the same size, if this box represents 10, all of these boxes represent 10 monsters. So if there's 3 blue parts, we can say there's 3 blue parts that are each 10. That is 30. So that means you caught 30 blue monsters. So we would write a complete sentence to restate and answer the question. How many blue monsters did you catch? You caught 30 blue monsters. Okay, in the next one, we are going to draw the tape diagram. So this example says there are 3 bones in a cat for every 4 bones in a dog. The cat has 240 bones. How many bones does the dog have? So here's our ratio. 3 bones in a cat, 4 bones in a dog. What we know is the cat has 240 bones. And then this is the question we're going to answer. How many bones does the dog have? Now, there are lots of ways to solve this problem, but we're going to justify this visually with a tape diagram. So today's focus is just the tape diagram. So we're going to start by drawing that diagram to show the bones in a cat to the bones in a dog. So we're going to compare the number of bones in a cat to the number of bones in a dog. We need 3 parts for the cat. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm on the centimeter side, and I'm going to draw 3 parts for the cat. So I'm going from 0 to 3. And then I am marking at each centimeter. The dog has 4 bones, so I'm going to go down here, 3 to 4. Draw to 4 this time. Okay, so there's my tape diagram. Okay, so the ratio here is 3 to 4. Bones in a cat to bones in a dog. What we know now is that the cat has 240 bones. So we know that these 3 parts represent 240. So if I take 240 divided by 3, we get 80. That means every box represents 80 bones. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go down here, and again, each of these represents 80. They're all the same size. So I'm going to take the 4 parts times 80. So how many bones does the dog have? The dog has 320 bones. Okay, go ahead and pause your video, and I'm going to have you try this one down here. The tape diagram represents the ratio of gifts you received to gifts you gave. You received 4 gifts. So how many gifts did you give? So go ahead and mark up your text. You're going to use the tape diagrams already drawn for you. You're going to use the tape diagram to answer that in a complete sentence. When you're done, you can unpause your video to check your work. Okay, since you received 4 gifts, this one box represents 4. All of these boxes will be 4, so you gave 16 gifts. Okay, flip this over. This time you're going to draw the tape diagram and then answer the question. So pause your video and try number 2. Okay, I drew a tape diagram to show the 8 bones in a large snake for every 3 bones in a small snake. There are 150 bones in the small snake, so each box represents 50. 50 times 8, so the large snake has 400 bones. All right, so let's go ahead and look at example 3. It says the ratio of the cost of a phone case to the cost of a screen protector is 5:3. The total cost of both is $40. How much does each cost? So let's stop and mark our text so we can see what we are working with. We know the ratio of the cost of a phone case to the cost of a screen protector. That tells us the order. That's 5:3. The total cost is $40. So our final sentence is going to answer how much does each cost. So let's start by drawing our tape diagram. We have 5 parts to 3 parts. That is our ratio. So I'll draw my tape diagram showing 5 parts, marking it every centimeter. Then I'm going to show 3 parts, 0 to 3, and then marking it every centimeter. Okay, so that represents the 5:3, and that ratio is the cost of the phone case to the screen protector. So I could label this top one is the phone case. This bottom one is the screen protector. Okay, so the information we know, the total cost is $40. So this whole diagram, okay, represents $40. Okay, there's 8 parts total, 5 here and 3 here. So the 8 total parts represents $40. So if I take 40 and divide it among those 8 parts, I get 5. So that means each box is going to represent $5. So if we do the math now, these 5 parts are $5. These 3 parts are $5. So the phone case is $25 and the screen protector is $15. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. You and a friend volunteer to read to children. You read 8 stories for every 5 stories your friend reads. You read 60 more stories than your friend. How many stories do you each read? Okay, so I am going to go ahead and mark up my text here. So I read 8 stories for every 5 stories your friend reads. So that is your ratio relationship. So that means my ratio is 8 to 5. Okay, so that tells me the ratio. Okay, you read 60 more stories than your friend. Okay, the question that we're trying to answer, I'm going to put a box around that. So after we've done all the work, we know what to answer. How many stories do you each read? So let's go ahead and start by drawing our tape diagram. We're representing the stories you read to the stories your friend read, so we can just put you and your friend. You and then your friend. That can be our label. Again, we know the ratio is 8 to 5. So I'm going to draw 8 parts for me, 5 parts for my friend. Centimeter side. So now when we go to solve this one, if we look at the information we know, it says you read 60 more stories than your friend. So if we look at you, that part that's more than your friend is these three parts, here to here. So these three parts represent the additional 60 stories that you read. The 60 more stories that you read. So we can now figure out how much one part represents. Because if these three parts are 60, 60 divided by those three parts, there's 20. So that means every box is 20 in both parts. So now the question is, how many stories do you each read? So up here I have 8 parts. Each part is 20 stories. Okay. 8 times 20, 8 times 2 is 16. Add the 0. Down here I have 5 parts. Each part is 20. 5 times 20 is 100. So you read 160 stories and your friend reads 100 stories.